Hey, it's Underscore. With me again is perma guest host and noted Zack Snyder apologist, ShadoSpartan.
Oh.
That's okay. I'm gonna make you defend Rebel Moon, and that's what you're gonna do.
One day.
Oh God.
Introducing our newest pals. First, former Twitch streamer, current retro junkie, and fellow dad bod gamer that inexplicably spells his name John with a B, and a man known in some circles as Girth Brooks.
Hi. I keep forgetting about the Girth Brooks thing, and I just spaced.
Why would you tell me that was your name if you're not going to use it?
No, I said I'm considering going by that, but now.
Well, I made
now
it
it's on.
for you. You're Girth Brooks.
You did. Now it's on ink and paper.
No, we're moving on.
The internet forever.
Moving on. The pubs are moving on. I'm hitting the time pal fast forward button, and we're going to the next guy. And lastly, finally, John, one of the super best friends who I have a great trepidation because I granted him the power to judge others with absolutely no repercussions, Nickell.
Hello, thank you.
Start us off, Shadow.
All right. Well, in case everyone listening who didn't know already, I am a huge Star Wars fan. Watched all the movies. At this point, I don't really watch the sequel trilogy, 7, 8, 9. I think they're garbage. Still love the original trilogy, but the prequels, since I was like 7 years old when I first saw them, I still think they're pretty awesome.
Get it? You fucked in elementary school.
But today we are going to be just focusing on episode 1, The Phantom Menace, because it's the 25th anniversary. Like I said, I was 7 years old, and it was like one of the earliest movies I ever saw. As much as I didn't really think too much of the story, all the action in it, the pod race, and then that final duel with Darth Maul was like the coolest thing I'd ever seen.
See, I'm glad you said how old you were, because for me, Phantom Menace came out when I was a sophomore in high school. So like the difference in time, I think, is how you determine whether this was a good movie or not. In fact, I remember when my dad wanted to take us to see it, but he was hesitant because his dad, my grandpa, that was the last movie he saw was the first Star Wars in 1977. So like he was like, okay, if this movie is terrible and something happens to me, the last movie I watched was a terrible Star Wars movie. It's like it's almost like sunrise, sunset, so cats in the cradle, silver spoon kind of shit. And I knew shit was bad for my old man because after he kept wanting to take us to the next new Star Wars every fucking time. So like, you know what I mean? Things weren't going good for him at his old age. But straight up, yeah, sophomore in high school, I remember it was right at that age where I'm thinking like, okay, I have I'm not a kid anymore, but in reality, you are. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I remember when that movie came out, saw it day one, like everybody else. And when I got out of there, I remember leaving thinking, okay, this is the bad one. This is the one, like the rest are going to be great, but this is going to be the one that's going to be remembered as the absolute worst one in the entire series.
I thought this was just going to be the
sweet summer child.
Yeah, honestly, I thought this was going to be the one that blew, and I'm going to be right. George Lucas is a genius, and everything is going to be great. Do you guys know Red Letter Media?
Yeah.
So they became their most famous from their Phantom Menace reviews and all the Star Wars shit. I thought they said it best. They said the first line of their episode 1 review was, "This was the most disappointing thing since my son." Yeah. And I was like, that is 100% true. I got there. I was ready to be like, there's no way this is going to suck. And then by the end of it, I went, okay, well, this is going to be the one I'm not going to watch.
Yeah, I watched it probably like 100 times.
You fucking would.
But again,
I've watched it a bunch, but I have to turn my brain off like for a lot of these things. I'm with you. I'm probably not going to watch 7, 8, 9 again because it's just so inconsistent and incoherent. 1, 2, and 3 are fun, and I look at them as the thing that set us up for the Clone Wars series, so it can't be that bad.
1, 2, and 3 are fun. That came out of your mouth.
Yeah, they're fun.
Yeah, they're fun.
They are by no means the pinnacle of Star Wars movies or the one I'm excited to see. And is there a lot of stuff that didn't lend to the story at all? Pod racing.
Yes.
Yes, there is. And Did us neckbeards drive several actors almost to suicide? Arguably, yes.
But they're still with us, so it's okay.
They're still with us, and we got Clone Wars and The Bad Batch. So I think it all worked out in the end.
Okay, here's where you're wrong. Day after I saw it, so I used to be a drama nerd. Nickell used to be a drama nerd, improv guy. There's a certain level of drama nerd where you respect them as an actor, as an improv nerd. So the day after I saw it, I'll never forget. I'm in science class. This dude, who will remain nameless, his name is Seth. He showed up to school wearing a Darth Maul T-shirt, not like a shirt with a Darth Maul on it, but the entire shirt was the face of Darth Maul. And I remember thinking, like, he's a super smart guy, best actor that I ever knew. And I remember thinking, like, well, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's some like secret shit that was amazing about it. So I asked him because he's a good dude. I'm like, so like episode 1, amazing, right? And he goes, no, it blew. And I went, okay. So I'm pretty sure there's an entire generation of people that love it. And I know for a fact that they love it because all those school kids, when I ask them now, when they were like 7, 8, 9, they will talk about it as if it was like this seminal moment. And for me, it's not, but I kind of get it. Because if you're young, you're looking at all the cool shit and you're forgetting the rest. Like in the very fucking beginning, like how old do you think Anakin is supposed to be versus how old Natalie Portman is supposed to be?
You try not to think about it.
but no, yeah. but I did because I was a sophomore in high school.
We ignore those things, okay? It's not called the Force because she forced herself on him. It's called the Force because it.
Well, no. You don't get to take that out.
So can we'll just move past that?
Qui-Gon Jinn didn't Jedi hand wave any answer. He didn't turn to Padme and say, "This is Anakin Skywalker. Don't worry, he hates sand and is allergic to pussy, so you'll be fine on the ship with us for the next 2.5 hours." Like that never happened. Like it's fucking creepy.
It might seem that way, but I don't know. Do you know how old she is versus Anakin? Let me see.
She looks 24 and acts like she's 16, and Anakin is 7. He's your age. You related to him. You had his haircut. I know you.
Jesus.
Actually, it's kind of weird. Padme Amidala was 5 years older than Anakin Skywalker.
And hell, he could
have. So she was 12?
Although you look at him and...
Oh, yeah 14 and 9, that's fine.
Okay.
I mean, that's marriage age. That's marriage age in some states.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. Nickell is Scottish, so who am I to judge?
Okay. Actually, I didn't know that. I figured they were like 10 years apart. And it's like, well, some couples are like 10 years apart. So I thought like, oh, that's not a big deal.
I mean, it's only bad if you think about it back then. I have a friend who is, well, actually, hell, I don't need to use him as an example anymore. I turned 39 and my girlfriend is 45, and we could very easily be like, oh yeah, when I was in kindergarten, she was in middle school. All right. And that sounds fucking horrifying.
So you live Phantom Menace. I don't know if that's a credit to you or not, but okay. You might have slowly convinced me that pedophilia has a bright side.
So I have to bring up that like some of us grew up in an age where they re-released the original Star Wars movies in theaters. Right? Like before episode 1 came out.
Right.
And like I think that's where like the big surge of Star Wars fandom really got a resurgence, right? And then comes episode 1.
I know what you mean. I kind of agree.
Piggy-tailing on that, riding on the coattails of the re-release in the theaters. And some of us are old enough to remember when it was re-released in theaters, but some of us aren't old enough, and we only remember like episode 1.
So Dom, being the fact that you were 7, did you grow up watching the originals? Did your parents put it on for you?
Well, at the time, I hadn't seen any Star Wars until episode 1 came out in theaters. and I was like, "Oh, this is super cool. This is
Whoa.
amazing." And
Whoa.
then my parents rented episodes 4, 5, and 6 for me because they were like, "Oh, there's other movies to watch."
What? What?
How is right? See, you're full of fucking surprises. What the fuck is that?
Yeah.
But just think about it. I think about it though. Think about the innocence of
Right.
going in, not having
Right.
watched the original three, having no formulated opinion about that.
So you watch them in order.
It was
I
essentially
feel like
1, 4, 5, 6, 2,
I
3.
feel like that would have been it sounds like you watched 1, 4, 5, 6, and then
Oh,
2,
right.
3.
Yeah. Because you'd have to have waited 2 years for every single movie. That makes sense. So, being the fact that you're the only one who did this, like, what did you think of the entire thing? Up until like obviously the last three don't count, but like, did you feel like it made the story complete? So for my generation, for Girth and for Nickell, the prequels ended up. I mean, maybe I'm speaking out of turn, but the prequels ended up feeling like they were unnecessary at the end. Like it ended up being like, well, I'm glad we told this story, but I don't know if it made any difference to the movies I did love. I mean, I love the stuff that I loved, and yeah, it was nice seeing Blue Boba Fett, but like I don't.
We could have lived without Jar Jar Binks.
Yeah.
Right, but for you, obviously, being 7 years old, thinking you're gonna fuck a 24-year-old Padme, I assume that it actually had some real substance and opened your eyes.
Well, I guess for me, I just saw it as like the original trilogy as its own universe, its own era, and then I was able to just separate the prequels as its own thing. But it's cool that they have this connection. Well, as I got older, and I started to like understand what makes a good story, the hero's journey. That's why the original trilogy is still the best out of other trilogies. At least it had a coherent story to it. But the prequels, it was very different in terms of the Phantom Menace trying to start somewhere. The beginning of episode 2 is the start of the Clone Wars. Episode 3 is the end of the Clone Wars. So there was a lot more, I think, world building and to have it be different compared to what the original trilogy, which was each movie takes place right after the previous movie's events and just kept building on that.
You like Zack Snyder.
So
I get it now. I get you now. I feel like I've connected.
we'll save that for another episode if we want to talk about the
Right.
Snyderverse again.
Okay. So
No, so like I agree that they weren't good movies, and I agree with the fact that the original trilogy, like if you look at the original trilogy, more of those movies actually drives the story forward in the context of the film. Like there's not a lot of stuff that they could have just, I mean, I know they left a bunch of stuff on the cutting room floor. But like there were very few moments like when they're fleeing and they go land and get swallowed by the Exogorth and the asteroid monster.
Know your lore, buddy.
you know what? Fuck it.
That's called the Exogorth. Come on, Mike, get your shit together. Like that was one of the few things that's like, okay, if this was taken out, we wouldn't have missed anything from the story there. And there was very few of those in the original trilogy versus the prequels were like you could take all three of those movies and chop enough shit out to where it would be one feature length film worth of actual like story driven material and things like that. Like the whole like I said at the beginning, like the pod racing stuff, the dealing with Sebulba and what is it, Watto and freeing the mom, like all of that stuff from the like, yeah, I know they were trying to build up like how he was gonna escape, but it's like, dude, you're a Jedi. Stab the fucking whatever that guy was. He's got little tiny Tyrannosaurus arms. It's not like he can fight you. You know, just stab him, take the slave child away, and leave. There we go. Problem solved. But, you know, I understand. I'm a lore nerd too. Like, I love when they release like additional material for things. Like, I played the hell out of that Final Fantasy Zack game just because
I
I was
have
like,
no
oh, it's
idea
more
who
lore
that
about
is.
Zack for when I play Final
I have
Fantasy
zero
Rebirth.
idea. I know Cloud, I know a Chocobo, and I know Tifa because I jerked it to for a few times in high school, and that was it.
Yeah, it's Cloud with black hair. It's Cloud with black hair. That's basically all it is. Um, but like if there's more lore, I'm happy about it. Like I love the comics, like all the Dark Horse comics, all the expanded Clone Wars. Like I love all that stuff. It just
Mhm.
adds to it. So in the end, I'm just like, okay, it's just extra lore. It's extra lore, and it's
I respect your opinion, Girth, but but um, do you want extra of something that's terrible? Do you want extra of something that's terrible? Is my question to you. Like it's okay. It's like okay. Let's say that life is terrible for you. You lose your job. Your wife leaves you. Spoilers for my whole existence, and eventually you get stomach cancer. That's extra lore. I don't look at that and go, "Great, stomach cancer."
you know what though. It's like it said in Pink Floyd's The Wall.
Oh,
If
fuck
you
your
don't eat
face.
your meat, you can't have any pudding. And I mean, that's a poor example because I fucking love meat. I wish it could be broccoli, but like, you gotta eat your bad stuff so you
No,
can have the
no.
good stuff.
Nickell's gonna agree with me. We wasted our lives worshiping a fucking movie, and then an entire generation worship Phantom Menace, and all those guys suck. Please tell me I'm not crazy.
I mean, look, I think the original trilogy is great standalone.
Yes.
Right.
Um, but
Oh, fuck off.
I think there's
Yes.
I think there's a lot, and this is just my humble opinion. I think there's a lot of people out there that will just fall head over heels over anything Star Wars
Hmm.
because it's Star Wars.
Yeah, there's a lot of neo Nazis
I
too.
do love
I don't
how
give a shit. They're wrong.
I'd like to then take that statement and just remind everybody that the Empire did nothing wrong.
But, really, I think we're glossing over the fact that here we have somebody who has a, a cherished childhood memory of episode one. And he didn't grow up with the originals like we did, per se. His first introduction was episode one. Like,
yeah.
try to imagine that.
Yeah,
No,
the Gungans were his Ewoks, man.
I get it. So I get it. I get that Shadow's coming from a place where this is the bar.
No, like we really have to set our old ass opinions aside and like think about what his take on it is,
As a
right?
7-year-old watching it for the first time.
Yeah, just tell me, as a 7-year-old, that not as with the age you are now. When you look back on it, what was your favorite part of that movie?
The Darth Maul versus Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan fight.
Okay.
The moment Darth Maul, turns on the lightsaber and then you hear that second zzz, it's like, oh my fucking shit, what the hell?
So a 7-year-old is impressed by two things. I get you. I mean, I don't disagree. It was a rad scene, but you have to admit that Maul was an underwritten character that had nothing to
Oh,
do.
for sure. When he dies and it's like, oh, bummer, that's it. He's never coming back.
And yet,
And yet, the Clone Wars decided, he
Hey,
survived.
but you know what? This brings me back to the point I will always, this is a hill I will die on. Star Wars owes its entire franchise to John Williams.
100%. Duel of the Fates. If they did not have Duel of the Fates in the background of that fight scene, it would have been nowhere near as
No,
good.
even more so. Okay. No, I'm not even. Just imagine. You go to see A New Hope for the very first time in what, 77? And instead of that epic, boom, ba-dum, ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba, right? Instead of that, you get something more akin to
1970s like music.
Yes.
right.
And
Yeah.
and if we
So
never
instead of that epic music, you get like a Star Trek episode. You know, the entrance of, or you know, the theme song to Star Trek. Like, would that movie be as good?
but listen, like that is a lot of with the exception of the intro, a lot of the music in the original trilogy, like there's the John Williams stuff, and then there's like the fucking cantina music.
Right.
Mhm.
Right.
And it's
But
like,
that's all. That's all John Williams.
All of it.
I know, but like I'm thinking more like epic John Williams orchestral, just like these pivotal scene songs. And then there's fucking Figrin Dan and his band, and they're playing their fucking jizz boxes. And yes, that's what they're actually called, jizz boxes. And the type of music is called jizz.
That's seriously what they're called, Mike, if you didn't know that.
I don't.
It's actually what they're called. I'm not fucking around. They just swapped a letter from jazz, and they were
They
like,
called
"This
it
seems
jizz.
safe.
I
This
mean,
isn't
I'm
going to
not
bite us in
even
the ass
kidding,
in
dude.
20 years."
I mean, like, let's be real here. Lucas is not the genius we thought he was as a child. You know what I mean? Like, he's
Not
just
at all.
not. He basically rewrote. He tried to rewrite parts of his new trilogy, right? And being like, well, let's see, like had a whole world in the clouds. Now we're doing a whole world in the ocean. Well, you know what I mean? Like we just it basically, just like he said in the documentaries, it's poetry and it rhymes. So that's basically just saying like, hey, I'm just gonna remake my movie.
I mean, that's what oh god, why can't I think? That's what what's his name did with The Walking Dead,
Oh, Kirkman?
you know? Yeah, Kirkman. He was just like, I had to rush the comics to prove that we were worth keeping around, and now with the show, I can tell the story that I wanted to tell and expand on it more. And so like I could see that Lucas is wanting to like okay, great. We had one shot at this. It was, you know, we have people who are big names now, but like they didn't have anybody like, you know, Star Trek had what, Lucille Ball advocating for him to get him going. Like she's the only reason Star Trek became a thing. Like they didn't have that shit for Star Wars. Just like we have one shot to make this happen.
I wonder if I should ask one question. There's speculation after episode 4 had come out and they had, what was it, the toys that if you wanted to buy, but they were slammed after episode 4 came out and everyone wanted the toys, that they couldn't make enough toys for everybody who wanted them. So instead you got like a coupon to pick up the toys later until they could get more of them in stock. And so after episode 4 had come out, George Lucas made a lot more money from merchandising. And so there's an argument that episodes 5 and 6, he was more focused on that versus trying to make really good movies. He was just trying to make a movie that would do really well selling merchandise. Right. I never really thought about it, that it's like it starts to make more sense if George really did try to make these movies more merchandise friendly versus actually trying
I
to
mean,
make
so he He-Manned it. You know what I mean? He meant it. You make the toys first, and then you do the episodes.
Yeah, because one of the producers, Gary Kurtz, of the original episode 4, even though he produced also episode 5, but then he left and didn't do episode 6 because George was kind of more focused on, yeah, but this won't be good for business, for merchandising.
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost like when episode 1 came around, it is a lot, focused on, for kids to enjoy. And then after you see the movie, I want to, collect, all the toys, video games, all that stuff. And technically he did make a lot more money from the merchandise versus the actual film, even though at this point it's grossed over $1 billion. The Phantom Menace alone.
Here's what I'll say. I mean, it's at some point in time, us as fans, even myself, we did want more Star Wars. We did want, we wanted something past the books, wanted something past the video games, which were always backwards anyway. They never went forwards. So I get the idea of like, hey, look, this is all corporate. This is all like a sham. We're just selling toys. I get it. But at some point in time, we as fans were like, you know what? I want more story. If you want to go backwards, because in theory, because you have to remember, in all the documentaries, he kept saying, I had all of these ideas, even though it probably was bullshit. I had all these ideas on how I was going to tell the story in the beginning, but I want to start from the middle. Fine. But at some point in time, if your middle is the best part, then why are we even doing the beginning?
I mean,
I'm going to cry.
Why fuck if there's not foreplay?
Yeah, I guess so, right? No, you're right. You're right. I mean, I just do it to have kids. Tax breaks. But still, like, I understand the point. So speaking of, not to fucking force this moving this along before it becomes a 2-hour fucking podcast. So obviously, with all the bullshit that came out, your lollipops shit in the shape of Jar Jar Binks' tongue.
That was hilarious.
You know that's real. You get to make out with him and taste cherry flavor.
You get to French kiss Jar Jar Binks.
Yeah, no, for real. Like I'm not even fucking kidding. And not to get sidetracked, but I was one of the ones where when episode 2 came out, they released General Grievous, and I'm like, this is gonna be worth some money. So I bought like 6 of those fucking things to sell them on eBay. I have all 6 still. So I am that guy. At least
wait, the General Grievous figures?
Yes,
dude, you could get a decent amount for those.
No, you can't.
Really?
You cannot.
I've tried.
So you cannot. So you don't know this, but Nickell traffics in the crack that is my generation, which is baseball cards. And believe me when I say, we both know when something is completely worthless.
Right.
He's he's sitting on a Pablo Sandoval card that has a lock there, and it's with us.
I got a 89 Ken Griffey Jr. Upper Deck rookie card. So does everybody fucking else.
I was gonna say, so do fucking I. In Don Russ and Tops.
Don Russ. A joke.
Oh, I thought you said Don Knotts. I was like, you guys have fucking comedian rookie cards?
It's that rare Mayberry.
I got a fucking 1971 Don Rickles and Richard Pryor. What do you fucking have?
The man batted under the Mendoza line, but man, could he steal second. But in any case, obviously, I think Shadow is the only one who's ever played the video games, at least the main one. I played the pod racing game. He's Jamaican. The pod racing game. The Jedi Power Battles. Never played episode 1 because I was so pissed off at that fucking movie. I wasn't gonna buy the fucking video game. What I didn't know is that it's batshit crazy. So, and here's the thing: I owned a PS1. I owned some bullshit. I owned WCW Nitro. I owned Kiss Pinball. Like, we're talking like 2 of the worst games ever.
Now I'm gonna judge you.
You don't fucking know. Somewhere along the lines, there was a teenage version of Mikey playing the shittiest glitchiest pinball game while listening to Black Diamond. I don't even like Kiss. I don't even like Kiss. They've been around for 50 years. I can name 6 songs that I will have on my iPod. That is it. But mind you, I own the worst shit on the planet, and even I looked at the episode 1 jewel case and I said that shit's staying on the shelf in the fucking GameStop. I'm not buying them. But Dom tried it, and apparently, at least from the Let's Play that I've seen, it's fucking nuts.
It is really crazy because I listened to an interview with 2 of the developers of the game, and they were given probably the first draft of the script. And that's all they had to work on. It didn't have everything.
It's George Lucas. It's like 6 lines. It's just 8-year-old kid tries to fuck a 22-year-old
Well, it was
queen.
just kind of like an overview. Like, okay, they're on Naboo. This is what kind of happens, and then eventually they get to Tatooine. There's a pod race scene, and it's just kind of like a blueprint that just quickly goes over what kind of happens in the movie. And
Right.
and throughout the interview, they keep eventually get updates. I'm like, oh, okay, here's what kind of changed in the movie, and they're like, oh crap, we got to make changes now. And so when they're thinking like the Gungan City scene, even though in the movie not too much really happens, they're like, well, I feel like we got to make a level of this. And throughout the level, you can technically, if you carefully, you don't have to kill any of the Gungans, but there were times where I'm like, oh, I feel like I'm stuck. There's a Gungan guard blocking my way, so I just pull out my lightsaber and just kill him so I can get past him. But of course, then they all start attacking you, and then next thing you know, Obi-Wan is committing genocide on all the Gungans.
So here's the thing. I think you're bearing the lead, because in every Let's Play I've ever seen, you can just straight up kill children. Like there's a cutscene where they go, "Hey, I don't like you. You look funny," and then you just stab them in the face.
Oh yeah, all
Now, so we're talking about the PlayStation version of the Phantom Menace, right?
Or
Yeah.
I'm talking about the PC. That's the one I played, but it is still the same. There is the PlayStation 1, which was like almost a little bit watered down, but that was because they had to lower the graphics or something.
Right. I know there's one tie-in game where like you actually fight Jar Jar Binks like as a boss battle.
Actually, I didn't hear about that. Please tell.
I think it might be like I think you're playing as Obi-Wan. Okay.
Well, they had an Xbox game that was legit just Obi-Wan. It was called Obi-Wan.
I don't know. Was that during that was before I think episode 2 was coming out, because that was like a later one. But yeah, what else was talking about?
Sorry to sidetrack.
Oh no. I didn't know about that.
I thought it was I thought it was funny that there was a game where, there's a level you actually fight Jar Jar Binks as a...
I'm assuming that Shadow's the only one who's played it, but during the Let's Play, it was a combination of like all the crazy like limb splattering deaths of Tomb Raider mixed with like the free form of GTA. Because if you wanted to, you just bust out your lightsaber, kill everything that you can see, and then the game just goes, cool, next level.
Basically, there's only like a few times where in, again, the Gungan level, you could kill Boss Nass, but the game will actually fail you. So there are like some moments it can happen, but there's another one where you're playing as Obi-Wan. They're conveniently going to take a tunnel to the ship to escape, but then suddenly a droid tank destroys the entrance, cutting off Obi-Wan and the Queen, so you have to take the long way around. And there's a moment where you run into a mom that says she lost her child, and she's asking you to go find him. And he's literally just down the street in another house. But again, if you want to, Obi-Wan can just pull out his lightsaber and just kill the mom and also kill the child if he really wants to.
So what I'm hearing is this is a better movie than the movie.
You could just, reach into your inner dark side if you really want to, and there's no consequences to it.
Oh no, stop drilling, you struck gold. I'm just gonna start killing every kid I see.
If everyone's dead, there's no one to rescue.
Right.
If there's no one to rescue, you've rescued everybody.
But it's even
All right, so I thought of a new question for my episode. What do you hate more, sand or children? I hate sand.
As somebody that has 3 of them, I might need some
Right.
time.
Like my kids are annoying, but they're only annoying because I am also annoying, and this is the behavior I teach them. When they're covered with sand at the beach, I don't want to take them home anymore because the sand, not because the children, because of the sand. So I think in the end, sand wins. I hate sand.
I agree with you. Here's my reason why Girth Brooks or John with a B is right. As much sand as I've ever had on myself, I can wash that shit away. And it's gone forever. And I will never think of that moment ever again. I can't do that with children. None of them. They will be with me forever.
Yeah, but that's the joy of parenting.
Oh, by the way, one thing that Dom didn't say, or one thing that Shadow didn't say, is that the games don't even give you the pod racing scene. So like they skip the whole fucking pod race. Like the pretty much honestly, aside from the Darth Maul fight, is the thing everybody remembers. And it just fades to black. It gives you this a scroll just being like saying like, hey, there was a pod race. And then Qui-Gon just goes and like it just after a black screen just goes, hey, great win on the race. And then it moves the fuck on.
Well, it is. Do you want me to correct it a little bit? Okay,
Yes,
so
please.
So on Tatooine, first you go to there's one level Mos Espa where you meet Anakin. You have to run around the city and find parts to fix his pod racer. Then the next level is you have to actually go talk to Jabba, which is as Qui-Gon, which I'm really curious if that was an early part of the script that George Lucas had planned, or that was just the developers that were like, we just want Jabba in the game, and it'd be cool to have Jabba.
You know that asshole put Jabba in the beginning.
It could be.
Well, I mean, a Hut was in the movie, right?
Yeah, he was in there, but Qui-Gon never like interacted with him. But in the game,
No, but he was in there, so maybe you're right.
Who knows? Could be. So then I'm trying to just make it short. So you talk to Jabba, you fight a monster, which isn't a Rancor. And then you basically make a deal with Watto about, T14 hyperdrive generator if Anakin wins, blah, blah, blah. And then someone steals a part from the pod racer. Qui-Gon has to get it back. It's a boss fight. And then gives it back to him. It's a small cut scene, but you don't see like the pod race.
Wait, it's a boss fight with who?
It's just this random guy. It's not from the movie or anything like that.
It's just a dude with a part. It's just some fucking mechanic.
It was
with a family, goddammit.
It's just some Antioch tweaker stole your catalytic converter.
Yeah,
but that's the crazy thing is they didn't play test it.
It's just some dude from Nicaragua trying to make a living.
But it's crazy because they didn't play test it at all, so you can literally just stand outside the boss room and just kill him without any issue.
Well, good. Fuck.
But yeah, you basically fix his pod racer again, and basically they don't show the pod race, but they just show you a little bit of the race where Sebulba like is in the lead, and then Anakin's pod racer, and then at the end they're like, oh, and then Anakin takes the lead, and then he wins. And then it cuts to a third quick level where literally you just need to avoid fighting Darth Maul and just wait for the party to get to the ship, and then you win.
So basically, Shadow, we went all this way, ran a few laps just to get to where I'm right.
Pretty much, yeah.
I mean, that does sound like your very typical 90s, early 2000s movie tie-in video game, you know? Just
Yeah, they try to
put the
spruce it
characters
up
in
a
that they
little bit,
like.
add a little more.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But there's one more story I got to mention from the interview. So they were trying to add uh, dismemberment or decapitation into the game where you cut off limbs.
There are children in this game. I want to remind you, there are actual physical children in this game.
There were in episode 3 too.
So in Mos Espa, there are children running around also. From the co-founder of the company, Big 8 Productions, when they went to some meeting to show off the game again to Lucasfilm, and they loaded up Mos Espa, and they're running around as Qui-Gon, and then they show them where he pulls out his lightsaber, and of course it's a child that he runs up to the tester and swings his lightsaber, and you just see the head go flying off the child into the air. And right away Lucasfilm was like, oh hell no, we cannot have this in a Star Wars game. And then they were even talking about adding blood to it, but they just knew, like, yeah, there's no way Lucasfilm would be okay with that.
That's a missed opportunity.
Definitely.
Yeah, exactly. There's a whole market that we just kind of did franchise.
Or nowadays they would just re-release it as like DLC. Like, what is it? Total War. Total War does that now, where like they'll release the game, but if you want blood and gore and everything, $5 DLC.
Oh, by the way, this is not going to make it into the podcast, but you know that they're doing a Star Wars Total War, right?
I didn't hear about it. No.
Yeah, or they're going to have $59.99 of my money guaranteed.
Well, we'll see how well they do.
I mean, their Warhammer adaptation was chef's kiss.
Okay, we'll see.
Actually, finish the game? Did you? Obviously, you were a kid, but did you actually play the whole thing?
As a kid, no. I always got stuck on the Mos Espa level because there's a bunch of different characters you have to talk to get the parts you need to trade for the correct parts you need to finish. So I was a 7 or 8-year-old at that time, because my brothers eventually got the game and they're like,
"You're a loser."
I would get to Mos Espa and I'd be like, oh, well, I don't know how to finish this level. So I just restart to level 1 and then play all the way up. Well, I just would, eventually when I got around.
Where the fuck is Brett Baker?
What was it? I know there was at one point I did.
I just replaced one fat co-host with 2 skinny ones and made them sit together.
I found the game on myabandonware.com.
Oh, that was
a couple of things. It's not one of those quick, easy installs. You gotta, at least there's one file to install, and then you gotta click this one thing that pretends like you have the disc inserted. One of those safety things. Make sure you actually bought the game. But yes, I have been able to beat it.
Wait, you beat it recently?
Well, yeah, I played the game. I'm working on the video for the retrospective.
Oh, yeah. That was something that you always wanted to do?
At some point, it's one of those, games that you play as a kid and there's levels you get stuck on, you can't get through. And then you revisit it as an adult, as now an experienced veteran gamer. And now you're like, I'm going to overcome this obstacle.
May I remind you, this is episode 1 of a movie tie-in game. And this stayed in your brain for 20 years.
Yeah, all my life I could never get through Mos Espa. And now finally I understand it now.
I mean, there's definitely games I've gone back to play.
Well, and I should say, like, Darth Maul, again, it's one of those boss fights that if you want, you can exploit his AI and just shoot him at range and kill him if you want. But
you could have done that at 8 years old.
I didn't know that at the time, but now for my video, I was like, and I just decided, I'm like, okay, I'm going to do it the legitimate way. So I actually used my lightsaber and tried to beat him. He's actually a tough boss fight, and he's full of bullshit. But there's one of those, eventually you figure it out and you're just like, oh, okay, that's how you beat him.
Shadow, it took me like 23 or so years to beat The Legend of Zelda, so don't feel too bad.
Actually, I haven't beaten Ocarina of Time. I always got stuck at the water temple with the mirror of Link. That guy is full of bullshit. Full of it.
Okay, I'm gonna mute you and Nickell. It's just me and John. Fucking dorks.
I should do a retrospective on that though, Ocarina of Time. That's one of those childhood games I still can't beat.
You know, I'm still actually like really interested in hearing like your experience being so much younger than like us and like
Mm-hmm.
witnessing Star Wars Episode 1 for the first time.
Yeah. Well, as a young kid, again, it's just the coolest thing in the world. But then as you get older and rewatching it now this past month, I understand now why story wise as an adult, story wise, it's like, yeah, this is, as an adult, I finally just, realize it's like, yeah, this is dumb. This is crazy.
Right. Kind of like
But-
how I thought that, like, Con Air was like one of the greatest movies of all time.
Whoa. And you still think that, and you know that because that is factual.
Yeah, exactly. We gotta start with a baseline of truth, motherfucker.
I was gonna say, like, that's a fucking Mitch Hedberg joke there. I used to think Con Air was the greatest movie ever. I still do, but I also used to.
All right. So let's try to take us home, Dom.
Yeah, I think that's just about it, really, to say about it.
Well, that's a fucking dumb ending.
Well, I mean, just my final thoughts. I still think Episode 1 is still a fun movie to watch if you turn your brain off. Don't focus too hard on the story, but just enjoy the action scenes, the pod race, and the Duel of the Fates music as you watch Qui-Gon Obi-Wan fight Darth Maul.
Right. It is what it is, right?
Right.
So from a scale of 1 to you're fucking wrong, what would you rate the game?
Oh, the game? Oh, God. in my arbitrary number of 1 to 10, 10 being the greatest game, 1 being the worst game ever, it's like a 2 or a 3. It's still terrible to play. Controls suck ass. But it's worth just seeing the story changes that these developers were given this first draft, and they just had to make this work somehow and connect it to the story, but also still make it interesting and fun, especially for games back in 1999.
I didn't play it. I played the pod racing game for the not Super. No, what was it? The N64. Pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
I played Power Battles, complete dog shit, and that was it. So I don't want to belittle your childhood memories, but you're wrong, dumb.
That's fucked up.
But
Right?
no, I know. I'll probably edit that shit out. But for real though, here's the thing. The one thing I will say about that game after watching like 2 Let's Plays, I wish I knew that game had the freedom and it was as batshit insane as it ended up being, because I would have had a good time no matter what, right?
Yeah.
So for me, it would have been fun as a side story to be like, well, just like you're saying, because I didn't know that until you said it. There's parts of the script that I wouldn't have experienced, obviously, in the shitty movie,
Mm-hmm.
that I can only experience in the video game. That to me is worth something, honestly.
Exactly. Especially the Coruscant level where the queen gets captured. That doesn't happen in the movie, but I bet you it just happened for the developers where they're like, oh, Coruscant, it's a big deal in the movie. We need to go there. And they almost thought about cutting it out, but they already like put a lot of work into it, so they're like, well, we might as well finish it now.
You win. So before I end this shit, why do you love Rebel Moon?
I didn't say I didn't say I love Rebel Moon. I'm still waiting on the director's cut before I give my final opinion about it. So we'll wait on that. I still think Batman vs Superman is the greatest movie ever made.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, no,
Ultimate Edition, not the theatrical version.
Hey, Dom, I'm sorry you had to defend yourself and your childhood against 3 old assholes.
It's not a problem. Everyone is entitled to their opinion.
It's the curse of being young and being
Naive.
7 years old when this
7 years old.
movie came out.
Yeah. Alrighty.
So
That sounds good.
I didn't write an ending to this bullshit. I just wanted Dom to defend episode 1 and then defend fucking Zack Snyder, which he will never fucking leave.
You know what? I'll take Dom's side on this one.
Zack Snyder is a genius.
No, not that. Not that. No.
I will say that Snyder.
That's another episode.
Oh yeah, entirely different episode.
You know, Zack Snyder said something along the lines of, "I'm so dark, if I wanted Batman raped, I would have him raped." Something like that.
Let's save it for the director's cut, Mike.
Director's cut.
I want you to defend 2.5 hours of slow motion grains of sand or grains of rice.
Yes, I will do it. But let's wait. Let us wait for the director's cut. And let's see just how much more sand and seeds he shows us in slow motion.
Fuck you. This episode is gonna have an explicit tag because you're pissing me off now.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I hate. No, I don't hate. I am indifferent to episode 1. However, I will defend Dom's right to defend that movie.
So, Dom, being that this is your episode, I'm going to give you the last word before I call it. Let me know why 7-year-old Dom thought this was the greatest movie ever made.
Because 7-year-old Dom enjoyed nothing but action and excitement.
Fair enough.
And that, but that's what episode 1 was all about.
Yes.
It was just going for the young kids.
Yeah.
7-year-old me. And that's how it won me over.
Spawning a new generation.
The greatest trick Lucas ever pulled was convincing your generation that this movie was worth spending so much money and then following it to animes, following it to CGI movies.
Selling it to Disney, who's going to choke all of every bit of merchandise out of everything.
Like I said, man, I own a General Grievous or 2 or 7. I
thought it was 6 last time.
I don't remember what the fuck I'm saying. I'm drunk, but still, I own more than one. That's all you gotta fucking know.
That's good. 12. It's 12. Okay.
So we're gonna end it here. This is Mike Underscore. You guys can say goodbye because I'm too fucking pissed off to say anything else.
This is ShadoSpartan.
Nickell out.
This is Jobn. And
no, you're Girth Brooks. You can't give us Girth Brooks and not be Girth Brooks.
Okay, fine.
Get a catchphrase.
For I barely even expected to use the name, let alone a catchphrase. I'm my own friend in low places. I don't know.
Come on, be like Stone Cold Steve Austin, where he came up with his 2 catchphrases after his King of the Ring match.
Oh God, I loved that story so much.
What was it? He came up with the Austin 316. I kicked your ass, and then right away he was like, "And that's the bottom line."
We were never gonna do wrestling again.
No more wrestling references. Darn.
We're calling it an episode.
No. You said I'm going to give you a catchphrase. Okay, I'm going to give
for it.
When it comes to Impact, Girth always delivers.